Oh, hello, everyone. Cory Michelle here with the Advanced Manifestation Community, and we have a hot topic today. So today, it's funny enough, I'm talking about my dream life and how I created it. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit of behind the scenes about how I've created my dream life and some of the things that I did that really worked, that I set myself up with to create my dream life, because it's not like it happened by accident. And I had done so many different things to try to create this. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but I tried so many things. So I learned about personal growth in college. So back when I think I was 20 when I took a class, and it was a psychology class, and I learned all about, um, changing your life and stuff. I did not get it at all. But I was fascinated. I was like, I have no idea what this guy is talking about, but um, this is cool. I like this. So everybody in the comments is saying, great timing. Okay, perfect. I'm glad it was perfect timing for me too. So I took this class, and that was my introduction to personal growth stuff. And I went, oh, this is really cool. And then I ended up doing a 3-day class with the Landmark Education back 21 years old. And that was my first real transformational program. And it did transform my life. And I really saw what was possible. Now, the problem with that was that even though I saw what was possible, I spent another 8 years. It wasn't 15 years. It was another 8 years stuck. I spent another 8 years after that trying to figure it all out. But now that I was aware, I had the blinders taken off of me. I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to make my life work in this way, because I didn't have the family to support and encourage me in the way of really fulfilling my dreams. I had a family that was, supportive in a lot of ways, but I had the subconscious that was not actually supportive in what I wanted to create. And also, I just didn't have anybody else in my family that had really gone for their dreams, was talking about it, that could mentor me. So I didn't really have the support, but I had the know-how now. Right? I had the know-how. I knew, okay, this is where I want to go in life. This is what I want to create. But how do I actually do that? So I went on to take a million classes, I think, maybe not quite a million, but a lot of classes. I had healings, I talked to psychics, I did EFT tapping, I did mantras, I did subconscious work, I did everything. How many of you guys have done everything? Right? I learned how to manifest. I read all the books, I watched all the movies, like I did everything I could get my hands on. And after 8 years, I was still stuck. I was still like, okay, how can I have this knowing of this vision of my life, but be still stuck in this other life where I was creating toxic relationships. I was creating a lot of debt, $150,000 of debt. I was creating the same situations in work. I didn't value myself. I didn't have confidence. I was over here living as this version of me, and I could see the future. I could see my dream life. I could see where I was free. And one of the things I wanted was, tell me what you want. What's in your dream life? That'd be me. Yeah, I know that feeling. Okay, glad you made it. Fantastic. So, one of the things I wanted, which was so clear to me, was I wanted to be location independent. I wanted to be able to work anywhere in the world. I didn't know if I'd ever leave Colorado, but I knew that I wanted to be free. I didn't want to have a job where I was always in an office. And the first time I realized that was when I saw a picture. It's a classic. It's a picture of a beach with some lady on a laptop at a beach, or a beautiful beach. And I went, I want that. Now, I tell you, I have that now, but I never take my computer to the beach. I don't want to take my computer to the beach. I want to be at the beach. So my computer, stays at home or a coffee shop, or while I travel, but not goes to the beach with me, right? Because why do I want to be working at the beach? I don't. Because here, if you go to the beach, it's hot and sweaty. So working on the computer when you're hot and sweaty is not fun. to me, at least. Maybe it's fun for other people, but that wasn't my dream of fun. But it was the location independent. So I went, you know what? I'm going to tag that in my world of something I'd like to have. I want to be able to travel the world. I saw my friends traveling the world, but I always was like, I don't have enough money for that. My friends were all going to Costa Rica at the time. And I went, how are you guys affording to go to Costa Rica? And I just thought, gosh, to do that is so expensive. I also had this dream of going to Australia, and I thought, man, that's just so expensive. I don't know how I could afford that. And that was always my conversation. And then I was having these toxic relationships, and I couldn't see how people were having these amazing relationships and getting married and doing all this thing, because I was like, I don't know what kind of guys you're in a relationship with, because the guys that are showing up for me are like, they're liars and they're cheaters and they're no good. That's my story. Yeah, I hear you. Right. So I knew that the life I was living was not the life that I wanted to live. But I don't know if you're anything like me in this area, but spending, 8 years trying to figure it all out, going, what is wrong with me? If I can have this vision, but I'm not living it, but I see other people doing it, like, what the heck is going on? Yeah, we got a bunch of, yeah, that's my stories, and yeah, in the comments. Um, so so I started to do things a little bit differently, okay? Because I could see the contrast. I could see my life now and all the way I was frustrated and I was disappointed and I was really just exhausted, and things just weren't working, and things weren't working more and more and more. So everything that might have started to work stopped working. And I was left with $150,000 in debt, even though I had created this amazing business that I really liked. I was also exhausted, right? It's like, you don't go into business, you go into business because you want freedom, right? Everybody wants that. You don't go into business to work your butt off making no money. That wasn't the kind of business, but that was what my subconscious, my old identity was creating. So when I started to shift this, I did a couple of things. Number one, I got a mentor. I got a mentor in the direction that I wanted to go to help me. Okay. I started investing in myself in a different way. And it wasn't just investing in a class or a little product or healing, because all of those things I think contributed to me eventually shifting, but they didn't make the difference. They didn't make, like, what do they say? Move the needle. They didn't move the needle for me, but they all were gaining momentum. So, I mean, I think everything you choose in life is a contribution, but what's really going to move the needle? What's really going to create a breakthrough? And that's what I wanted, because I was sick of it. I was done. I was like, this can't go on anymore. And I think that was part of what created that choice to actually dive in with a mentor. Even though I had $150,000 in debt, I ended up investing quite a pretty penny to be able to work with somebody that was going to assist me in having the breakthrough. Okay. And I hadn't done that yet. I had spent a lot of money, but I hadn't fully invested in the transformation yet. So that's number one, is like, when you get to that point where you're like, I can't do this for one more minute, let alone one more year, be like this, I'm ready for this transformation. Then I would highly recommend investing in a mentor that has already created what you want to create, the transformations, that has an effective process. Okay. Because you don't have to do it alone, and piecing things together maybe works for some people, but it oftentimes leaves others of us stuck and frustrated. And then you're going to end up spending more money anyway. So that's number one. And then along with that is community. Find a group of people that are doing what you want to be doing and having the transformation and the breakthroughs that you want to be having. And this is really key, because if you're surrounded with people having breakthroughs, then you are going to have yours, because whatever's going on there is working. Okay. Whatever's going on there is working. Okay. So that's key. Now, I think another thing that I did is I just never gave up. I never gave up. I never said it's not possible for me. I always was like frustrated, but I always knew somewhere in me that if I could see this dream life, if I could see the freedom, if I could see the relationship I wanted, if I could see ease and plenty of money, then it was possible. If I could see me making a difference in the world, then it was possible, even if I didn't know how. Right. And so continuing to believe that it's possible led me to sort of that breaking point of, I can't do this anymore the way I'm doing it. Something's got to change. And it really is that sort of rock bottom point that we hit that will oftentimes catalyze that opening and you finding that right thing for you. Okay. Yeah. Yep. All of that. Everybody's saying it. I don't want to have that anymore. Yep. Energy is addictive. And if you're in this group, it's called advanced manifestation, right? You've probably already um, been learning about manifestation, the law of attraction, and many of these things already, right? But if you're still stuck, you have a blind spot. So one of my blind spots was that I had learned at an early, well, there was two that I'll share with you today. I had learned at an early age that you should always appear confident. And if you didn't appear confident, you were vulnerable and weak. So one of the things I was doing to sabotage myself, especially, I say especially in every area really, is I would just act like everything was okay. And I would start to believe that everything was okay, but it wasn't. I wasn't actually being honest with myself. And because of this, it led me to avoiding even looking at $150,000 of bills, credit card bills. I didn't even know how much was there until I added it up. And that took a while to create. I was in avoidance. I was not really present to the impact that this sort of mindset that I was in was doing to me. Um, and it was crazy because I look back and I go, I remember being in first grade. This is my first memory of this. I remember being in first grade and a boy on the playground threw a green plastic dinosaur, those ones, at, I don't know if he threw it at me or he threw it and it hit me in the head, right square in the head. And I didn't cry, though I wanted to. And I went back to class after recess, and a big bump started to form on my head. And I tried my best not to cry because I thought, I can't cry. I can't let anybody see me cry. The teacher ended up saying, Cory, are you actually okay? And I burst into tears. I couldn't hold it back anymore. And she sent me to the nurse, and, I think I went home that day. But I just remember that so clearly. Like, it is not okay to be vulnerable. You need to be confident at all times. And that was really a subconscious block that was going to my detriment because it never allowed me to see what was really going on. I always had to pretend it was okay. And then I would believe it. I'd believe it's okay. And that didn't allow me the depth of being present to what was actually going on and what was actually being created. The stress on my body, the incongruence in my choices in my life, really getting real about stuff was very, very difficult to do. And it took me a while to sort of untangle that because it just always seemed like a weakness. I don't know if anybody else resonates with that, but it was tricky and hard. But once I did it, I went, oh, this is actually the cause to a lot of my problems because I'm saying everything's okay. I'm fine. Everything's going to be okay. It's all going to work out, which is sort of the mindset of positive thinking, right? And when we go into this positive thinking, like, I'm just going to positive think my way out of this, if you have this subconscious belief that it's bad to be vulnerable or that exposing yourself is vulnerable and that's a weakness, then oftentimes you'll go into a sabotage mechanism that doesn't allow you to get present to what's actually happening because you don't want to feel it. You don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to allow anybody else to see that of you. Right. And so when I had a breakthrough with that, it was amazing because um, I'm able to be present in any moment with the impact of what's going on, but not stay there. Right. I thought that if you felt it, then that was going to create more of it. I thought if you felt it, then you were going to stay there, but it's not that at all. Right. And so it's now one of my superpowers to be able to go, hey, wait a second, what is this actually creating? Right? Getting present to that. So hi everyone joining. Welcome, welcome. All right. Yeah. Hey Shanoa. Okay. So that was one big area for me that massively transformed that has enabled me to create my dream life. The Yeah, the willingness to be vulnerable and the willingness to really look at things. And with the mentor that I said before, allowing somebody else to assist me in the process. Because what I didn't realize, I thought, I'm a powerful person, I'm a strong person, I'm a confident person, I can do this on my own. And I was dead wrong about that. I could not do it on my own. And here's the reason why. My subconscious was set up to create the life that my subconscious was set up to create. From all the conditioning, from all the stuff I learned, from all the stuff, whatever else, right? My parents and reality, life, whatever. But what I wanted to create was so different that my every time I tried to create it, my subconscious would pull me backwards. Create a block, create some issue, like anything. Every time I was about ready to have a big breakthrough, my subconscious would pull me backwards. And I didn't realize that was my subconscious. I thought there was something wrong with me. And once I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with me. That's just the subconscious working once I realized how it all works. So part of how I started creating my dream life was number one, keeping that vision, right? Getting a mentor, but also becoming vulnerable, like allowing myself to be vulnerable. And then really being able to bring that future self to the now, really being able to bring that future self to the now. But the thing is even when you're doing that, even when you're stepping into that, what happens is your subconscious, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between your subconscious, which is your old identity, and your new identity, because for so long you've believed that this version of you is true and real, that this version of you is blocked, this version of you has a problem, all of that. But your future self is totally different, right? So to really start being and functioning from this future self took support. I had support. I had people mentoring me. I was consuming content that was for this. But the other thing was the actions. My actions were in alignment with my future self. So now, years later, after doing this, I've become so aligned that it's really hard for me to get out of alignment because I'm not that version of me anymore. Now, can I get out of alignment in the moment? Yeah, but I now have the mastery with my energy and myself that it just hardly ever happens. Okay. Now, does it happen? Yeah, it does happen because we all are working with our subconscious and our consciousness and stuff like that. And we can slip and fall on anything. But we know that when there's an out of alignment, right, then it causes a lot of crap. And I'm not interested in crap. Okay. Now, one of the other things I did was I raised my standards. Okay. I noticed that I had really low standards with relationships, with money. Like for me, it was okay. I can't believe I was doing this, but I was. It was okay for me to have a negative bank account in my world. Insane. Like I look back and I'm like, why was that ever okay? And I continued to create it for years. I would have a negative balance or I would have all those fees added on top. One time I had $1,000 worth of fees in 1 month. Okay. That's a standard issue. You have low standards. I had low standards. And once I figured that out and I went, all right, I got to raise my standards, I figured out how to bring my future self into that. Okay. And apply the future. And now I have a whole process that we run that people go through the process and you start raising your standards and you start functioning as that future self. So over the 12 years that I've been creating my dream life, I've come up with a process that I use on a regular basis to upgrade my life. I have a process that we use every quarter, and then I have a process that I can use at any time to be able to pivot into my future self. But one of the keys is really starting to know your future self. Like, who are you? Who is your future self? Right? Who's that? How does that future self function? Okay. So bringing these dreams alive, every single one of your dreams is a reality that you are meant to manifest. Every single one. And the only reason you don't is you're not being that version of you that has it yet. Now we hear this all the time. This isn't new information, but how do you do that? How do you do that? Okay. This is where people like me, being a mentor or a transformational coach, breakthrough coach, can assist you in navigating your subconscious so that it's not running your life anymore, on how to actually bring that future self in a short amount of time, so you start functioning differently, start perceiving things start being different, you start responding to life different, right? You start believing different things. Okay? All of this is reprogramming your subconscious so that you start naturally functioning as your future self. Pretty cool, huh? And that's really how I continue to bring my dreams alive. So, like, for example, when I moved to Australia, I wasn't planning on moving to Australia at all. But here's the thing, I had this here's what actually happened. When I was 8 yeah, when I was 18 in college, a friend of mine went to study abroad in Australia. And he loved it, and he came back, and he showed us all the pictures and how they traveled around, and they went scuba diving, and they got their scuba certification and everything, and I was just like, "Oh, I wanna do that. Like, I wanna do that." And then I went to ask my because I was very fortunate. My grandparents created a trust fund. My grandfather sold a bunch of books, and he created a trust fund for me for college. So we had the money for my university paid for. Um, so I went to my grandparents and I asked them, "Hey, can I do a study abroad with this money?" And they said no. And my now self would have found a way, but my then self was not confident. Right? I was not, uh, clear that I could get whatever I wanted, that I could have that experience, because it was one that was, like, so in my heart. I just took their no, and then I made them wrong. I became a victim to their perspective and what they said. I never asked again. I just said, "Okay, well, I guess I can't go then." I never even tried to figure out, like, how I could actually go. I look back on that and go, "What the heck was I thinking?" Because it's so not the way I think now. So, yes, I was very blessed, very, very fortunate to have that. Um, so over the years, I was living in Colorado, and Colorado is very snowy in the wintertime. It's cold, and springtime comes and it's nice and warm, and everything gets green. And then, October comes and everything dies, and then October, November, December, January, February, March. So 6 months, everything's brown. 6 months, everything's green. I loved the green times and the warm times, and I really, as the years went on, did not like the weather and the brownness and the dirtiness, and because everything's dirty when everything's brown. So anyway, one year I slipped and fell on the ice coming out of my house, and I was like, "Forget this. I do not want to live another winter. I don't want to live another winter in the cold like this." And I realized how much I really just didn't like it. So I thought to myself, "Man, it was so great to like be in Australia like 3 or 4 or 5 months out of the year. Wouldn't that be great?" I thought, "Huh, Australia is still on my mind," and I still had never taken a trip there. I still hadn't even gone on a holiday to Australia. So anyway, the next year I ended up moving to was it next year? Yeah, it was like a year and a half later. I think I went through one more winter, and then I moved to San Diego because I was like, "I'm out of here." I moved on Christmas Day. There was the flight I took was it was snowing like crazy. It was a blizzard. Our flight was one of the last flights out of Denver to San Diego. I'd packed up all my stuff. It was on the way already. And I landed, there was green grass. It was like 65 degrees. It was nice. There was no blizzard. It was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in heaven. This is great." So that was one step towards creating my dream life. Living in San Diego was amazing. I walked on the beach all the time. I had a beach view for a while. It was amazing. And then I ended up, I think that year, one year later, in Australia. I actually went for the first time. And while I was there, I loved it so much. I only went for 2 weeks. I loved it so much. I was like, "You know what? I would love to be here more often." So then fast forward 3 years later, I got out of a pretty intensely toxic relationship, my last toxic relationship. And I thought, you know what? What would I love to do to make 2016 my best year yet? And the first thought was go to Australia for like 4 or 6 weeks. So I said, ooh, gosh, could I really do that? Because I had never taken a vacation that long. So I went, all right, I'm going to plan that. So I planned it for starting in August of 2016. Little did I know that that one question and that one trip would change my life, because that's where I met Ben. And when I got done, I got back on October 1st, I think it was. 2 weeks after that, I found out I could actually move there. And then exactly 8 weeks from that date, I moved. So I sold all my stuff. I moved my whole life, packed it all up. I had 4 suitcases that I brought to Australia, moved out of my apartment or my house, and moved my whole business and everything to Australia. So that's a very long, awesome, juicy story, very short. But what ended up happening was my greatest desires, all of them, working from anywhere in the world, being able to be anywhere in the world, having a relationship of my dreams, to being, in a warm climate that's pretty warm most of the year, except for this year. It's actually a really cold winter here. I say really cold. It's actually not that cold because it's not snowing or anything. So I have nothing to complain about. But everything happens for me now. So my desires start to manifest for me versus me trying to manifest them. Okay. And how I moved everything in my whole life in 8 weeks from saying yes was literally because I was so aligned that everything started happening. I'd go, oh, well, I have 2 more years on my lease of my car. I wonder how this is going to work out. And then I get one awareness, follow through on that awareness. And then all of a sudden, literally the next day, somebody's taking over my lease for 2 years and paying me for it. Right. I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to, sell everything in my house and actually get this house ready. So I thought, oh man, it would be so great if somebody could come. So I put it out there, and then somebody came and lived with me for 4 weeks and did it all. I paid her, but she did it all. Right. So it's like everything that seemed like it would be a problem or an issue got resolved like within hours, like 24 to 48 hours. And when I left, it was so amazing because I felt so free. Was like, you know what? I actually have created this life where I can live anywhere in the world. I could pick up and move in a matter of weeks and be off and running somewhere else. That to me was like ultimate dream life. Little did I know that I was going to meet Ben, or I mean, little did I know that Ben and I were going to work out, right? 6 years later, our anniversary is next month. 6 years later, right? We're creating like the most amazing stuff. And we get to work together, we get to live together, we get to travel together, right? Like all of it together, which is something that I always wanted since I was 22. I wanted to be able to work with my partner, and here it is. Okay. So when you do this future self work and you really commit yourself to being that version of you, literally all of your dreams will manifest, even those dreams you've had for a really long time that you still would like to have. Happy anniversary. Thank you, Trisha. Thank you. Very inspiring. Um, yeah, it's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing to step into this, going from spending so long being so stuck. Okay. I am not somebody like, while I had some privileges in my life, I had some not great stuff, right? And I think we all have that. I think we all have the things that we've been blessed with starting off this game in life, and then we have the things that are our challenges. And I believe that every single one of our challenges is set there by us so that we gain something by going through that. And it's crazy because some of them are really hard and some of them really freaking suck and some of them aren't that hard and some of them are the life-changing, moment-changing things that we have to hit rock bottom with. And I've had my rock bottom moments. I've had my, times where I did drugs in my 20s. And I even had this moment where I really feel like my future self or higher self was speaking to me, where I was high as a kite at 2 o'clock in the morning with my friends. I thought were my friends. I look back and go, those are not friends, Cory. But I had this moment, 2 o'clock in the morning, going, oh, I think I'm here to leave this legacy. And I told my friends, and I could see the timelines of this timeline. If I kept going to do drugs, that was going to lead me. And I could see myself and I could see the people I was around. And I was like, I don't want to be there. And then I saw the other timeline and I saw me leaving a legacy. I saw me being a contribution in the world. And I went, oh, I'm going to go for that one. and I was high. And I said to my friends, I said, "Hey, do you guys ever feel like you're here to leave a legacy?" And they all looked at me like, "What? Hand me more drugs." And I went, in that moment, I went, "Holy shit, I'm in the wrong place. I'm literally in the wrong place. I don't belong here." And that was a massive rock bottom moment where I went, "Holy cow, my life is not the right life. This is not the right timeline for me." And I didn't have that language back then, but I knew that my friends weren't the right friends. I knew that doing drugs at 2 o'clock in the morning wasn't the right pathway. At the time, I hated my job. It was horrible. I needed to get out of that. The guy I was dating was not the right guy. He was just bad on so many levels for me. And so everything had to change. So I actually ended up having that awareness. It sort of sunk in over the next month, and then I left. I never looked back. And I left friends, I left the relationship, I left the job, like all of it, all in a very short amount of time because I was like, if I keep doing any of that, I am not going to be able to leave a legacy. Yeah. And sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes we have to leave the things that are toxic for us. And sometimes there are subconscious beliefs, and sometimes there are people in our lives, and sometimes there are choices that we've been choosing. But we start to know them when we have that realization where we go, if I keep going on this pathway, it is not going to get any better. There's no fixing this. There was no fixing the relationship. There was no fixing these friendships. Like my friends, and this is what was like when I really realized it, my friends were cheating on each other. So they were married and then they were having these external affairs. And then they were telling me one of them had no idea what was going on. And my friend, so was her husband, my friend was telling me all about her affairs. And I just went, man, I I don't want to have friends like this. I don't want to have friends that do that to each other. Like you marry somebody, for me, you get married, you love that person. Why would you be cheating on them? That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't want friends who cheat on their spouses. Like those are not my best friends because we don't share values. And when I realized that, man, I ended up telling him. He did not want to hear that because they never do. So, whatever that was, I couldn't not. I felt like I was cheating myself by holding in everybody else's secrets. And I knew that I needed to do that for me. Whatever it created in their world, that's their thing. That's not mine. And that was huge for me because then I uplifted my whole level of friends that I had. I was like, I just don't want to be around people that are cheating on people. That's not my values. I want to be around people that honor people. I want to be around people that treat people well. Like, because otherwise you're going to treat me the same way as you're treating your husband you're cheating on. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. So, anyway, those are some of the things that I had to overcome to, really even get congruent. But then it still took me really learning how to manifest and really diving in. And when I was ready to find that mentor where I was like, okay, this is where I'm committing myself and I'm willing to be vulnerable to go through this process because whatever I've been doing hasn't been working. And that, has always been my sort of rock bottom points throughout my life. Like I had a rock bottom point when I figured out that I had $150,000 of debt and really no way to pay it off, right? No way to pay it off. I was making $2,500 in my business, which wasn't even my full pay because I was paying somebody else to work with me. And I had $150,000 debt. So how in the world was I going to pay that off? That was my own business, right? So I thought, heck, if I'm going to pay this off, I have to have a whole life upgrade here. I have to have a whole transformation because that is not going to happen. And the rock bottom point there for me was I had all the bills, the credit card statements in front of me, and I was adding it all up. And I looked at it and I went, "Holy shit! There's $150,000 here. Fuck." And I knew that what I was doing wasn't going to fix it. Like I wasn't going to be able to create out of that. So it was amazing because this is really where the future self, well, that the with the friends and stuff, that was a future self moment, but I didn't really know what happened. Like I knew it happened, but I couldn't deconstruct it like I could when the debt happened. So with the debt, this amazing question came in, which was, I believe, from my future self or future self, higher self. It said, you need to become the version of you who's paid this all off. And I went, okay. Yeah, I don't even know who she is, but yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to become the version of me that pays this all off. And that's what I did. I became the version of me who paid it all off, and I got it all paid off in 5 years. So what I had to do there, though, to be able to pay that off, because I had to change everything again. So the job I was working, the company I was running, which was basically a 70-hour-a-week job for $7.14 an hour. It's crazy. I had to start to own my value. I had to learn how to sell. I had to start asking different questions. So I started asking, what do I love to do? And that's when I stumbled upon coaching. I started to facilitate. I started to coach, and I went, "Wow, this is really fun. I really like this." And then people were benefiting from it. So I went, "Yeah, okay, let's do more of this." And then that just took off. So that was 12 years ago. I didn't plan to be a coach. I didn't think I had anything to coach on. And if you looked at my life, like, you wouldn't say, "Yeah, let's hire Cory. Her life's a shit show." Like, I started transforming myself and doing what I was really great at. Comes to find out, I was really great at coaching. Super intuitive as well. I didn't realize how aware I was of other people's reality to help them get unstuck, which was really cool to find out because I really love that part. So I hope you're gaining some insights from my stories here of what I've been through. Um, one other element to paying off that $150,000 of debt was that I had to increase my income so much to be able to pay it off. So there was claiming the value of me, finding out what I'm really good at, and creating a whole different timeline that supported me actually paying all of that off, right? And so now in 12 years of this business, I've created millions, I've paid all of that off. I've done so many really cool things, traveled the world, facilitated in many different countries, all things that I always wanted to do, right? I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to meet amazing people. I always wanted to be a contribution. So all of those things started catalyzing into my life. I also get to be creative. I feel like being an entrepreneur is really being an artist in my life. So that's the freedom for me. So anyway, so with all of this, one of the programs that I've created that brings all of this knowledge together to be a catalyst for others, and this is my signature program, is called the Transform Yourself program. And in this program is the process that I use and I use with all my clients to go from here to there. So to transform yourself into your future self, right? It's effective. We've used it with hundreds and hundreds of people, and I use it with myself. So I know it works, obviously, because it's a 12-year process with all of my awarenesses and all my good stuff in there. And if you're interested in having a breakthrough, if you're at that place where you're like, I don't want to go another year, and you'd like to have a breakthrough in the next 2 months, I would love to have you join us in the Transform Yourself program. Let me see if I can grab a link. I wasn't actually planning on talking about that. It's an application we have to apply because we guarantee the results. We create momentum and breakthroughs in your transformation in the 60 days. So you go through a process, and it's called the Transform Yourself process. And you go through that process and you connect with your future self. You start upgrading your life. You start setting new standards. You start having new perspectives, and then you start responding. So you start embodying that version of you. And once you start doing that, things in life start to change. And you'll start to see some stuff you might have to let go of, some perspectives that you start to shift, because your future self is brilliant. Your future self knows how to get there. And we can show you how to access that consciousness within yourself and start being and responding as that version of you. We also have 2 more presentations coming up on the weekend, that if you've taken the quiz, which I do have that link, if you take the quiz, which the quiz link is all over everywhere, you will get to the other side and there's a presentation. That presentation, there we go. That presentation will tell you all about the transformation. I go into detail and depth on the process that we use and stuff like that, so you can find out more about it. What I would recommend is that if you want to create your dream life and whatever you've been doing hasn't worked quite well yet, and you kind of feel like you have blind spots. You're like, I'm doing stuff, but it's not working. Even if you're doing the formula somebody else said or whatever, if it's not working, I can help you. That's exactly who I help with this process because we can uncover exactly why it's not working. And I think that there's a lot of really great programs out there that work for some people, but then I always find these people who are like, Cory, I don't know, I've done all these things, it's not working, can you help me? It's like, yeah, that's who we help. You've been trying to manifest stuff for a while. You've tried a few things and you still feel energetically stuck or that like whatever you're doing is not working. That's exactly who we help. And you'll find that the process is ridiculously simple and that when you start applying it, um, it's it starts to work. Like it starts to work in your life. And one of the things we say is that people go through this process and they're like, okay, I got to go through this again because now I'm already noticing that I'm embodying my future self and I need to do this process again because you'll go to the next level and you'll go to the next level and you go to the next level with the process. Cool. Awesome. What's my hourly rate to meet one-on-one? I only have one option to meet one-on-one and it's 52,000 a year and you have to sign up for a year. And the reason that is because when I do the deep work one-on-one, it takes a lot more of my energy to be able to do that. When we do it in the group, it takes a lot less energy and it's actually faster. It's a lot faster. Yeah, to do it in the group. So that's why we offer the transformation program. Yeah. I don't do one-on-one sessions. I used to do one-on-one sessions like one-off sessions. And I realized that when people come to me just with a one-on-one session, they don't um, oftentimes they're looking to solve a problem. I don't believe in problem solving. I believe in transformation because every problem that shows up in your world is actually an area for you to transform. And if we can go into the possibility instead of the problem, we can resolve it really quickly. Like it's fast. It's so fast. So that's why, like in the transformation program, we have the process. You also get a coach that you work with one on one, and you also get group live coaching. And so I do come on those group live coaching sessions every 3 weeks. And this week, if you were to come into the transformation program, I am doing this week's live coaching. So you can ask any question that you want that's coming up about the process or what's facing you in life. And that's where a lot of people will ask questions. They'll say, okay, I got this information from my future self and I'm applying this, but now this is showing up. And they go, what do I do with that? And it's always the way you think you should deal with it is not the way your future self would deal with it. And you got to step into your future self. If you don't, you're going to handle it the old way you did it, and it's going to repeat the pattern. That's just how the subconscious works. The subconscious is an if this, then that system. So if this happens, then I do this. If I don't feel like I'm being loved in my relationship, then I start overgiving to try to prove myself. If this, then I get stressed. If like that's all that the subconscious is. So we got to reprogram that. And that takes you doing things differently, being different, seeing things differently, being more congruent, which is all of the stuff we teach you in the program. Yeah. So now I'm still learning to, there's things popping up here. Think differently about the problems. Yeah. And it takes some rewiring. It takes some shifting in your world to do that. It also takes being in the right community. Because the thing is, when you're in the community of people that are having this similar conversation, we're talking about this sort of stuff, then you get it multiple times. So you get the repetition that the subconscious needs, but you also get the different perspectives. So you have a perspective and you hear me say it, and then somebody asks a question, and then a coach responds in a different way. And then you get that perspective, and then you go and apply it, and then you get your own perspective. And then all of a sudden, you've got, I call it full bodied different perspectives that start to build in that repetition in the subconscious, because the subconscious needs repetition to repattern. So that's why we have the programs that I have that, like the Transform Yourself, we're repeating the future self into the now, future self into the now, future self into the now. And then once you get good at that, then you can start doing it on an ongoing basis. So we do have follow-up programs like the Creation Academy, which is my year-long program, where we really take it to the next level and we start creating quantum leaps. But the Transform Yourself, if you're stuck and you want to gain momentum, that's the program for you because we do it in a short amount of time. We start getting momentum and you start seeing a different you show up and a different reality show up. Yeah. I used to charge $1,000 an hour, I think, when I was doing that. So that's sometimes you'll hear me reference that because that's sort of, what those were. Um, but the truth is that it's the process that works. Like I'm amazing and I'm super intuitive, but I also created this process that works. So when you have the right process and the community and then the support, it's like the trifecta where you can't lose. You've got to transform. Regan saying the group programs are amazing. So much support on so many levels. It's so awesome to have you in our programs, Regan. So anyway, I wish one of my team was on right now to send over a link, but I don't have one. So if you take the quiz or if you retake the quiz, you'll find out your number one subconscious manifesting block. And then on that video afterwards, I give you a video report on your block, whatever one yours is. And it's 10 minutes. It's awesome. People are like, holy cow, I didn't know that. My specialty is working out the subconscious so that you don't get blocked. So we can see what your blind spots are and you can move on. Okay. Because you don't have to be stuck. Even the thought of like, oh, I'm so stuck. That's actually just a subconscious pattern. So we like to point these out so that we can move on. Don't you want to move on? I surely always want to move on. It sucks being stuck. It really does. It's not fun. All right. Definitely. That's what I always needed. Love it. I think, Trisha, you just got the 5D program, right? The creation process? Oh, man, you're going to learn some of the good stuff in there. Yeah, no, it's not fun. It's not fun. And, I think we stay there. We stay there, I think, as long as we do, but we don't have to stay there for any longer than when we're ready to make a different choice. Yeah. All right, you guys, that's all I have for you today. That's how I've created my dream life. There's probably so many more things I could share with you. Maybe there'll be a how I created my dream life part 2 or diving into more specifics. But that's what I wanted to share with you today to give you a little bit of inspiration about what is possible and some of the things that I haven't really shared before. So there you go. All right. Hope you enjoyed today. Look forward to seeing you soon and message me if you would like that link. I'll send it directly to you to apply for the Transform Yourself. And if you would like to watch the whole presentation and take the quiz, just go to the quiz link. I wonder, yeah, there's the quiz link right there, actually. Got that one programmed in there. Just take the quiz. You'll see a lot about that. And then the presentation afterwards. Like I said, we have 2 more live ones, Saturday afternoon US, and then Sunday for Australia and the UK, European region. All right, guys. Love your vibe. Love your vibe too. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you again very soon. Bye.